Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Batu, and today we're going to talk about a shift versus movement along a curve. So in particular, we're going to discuss demand and supply curves, shifts versus movement along these curves. So first, let's define what a demand curve is. So a demand curve is a graphical representation of the relationship between price and quantity demanded. And the supply curve is a graphical relationship between quantity supplied and price. Now, when you say demand curve, that's the graph, but demand is an entirely separate thing. So demand is the entire relationship between price and quantity demanded. Supply, same idea. For supply, this is the entire relationship between price and other factors and quantity supplied. So these two so the supply curves, demand curves, these are the graphs. Demand and supply, this gives you the whole picture, the whole relationship. Now, these two are important for us to understand the difference between a shift and movement along the curve. So now let's discuss change in quantity demanded. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch a demand curve. Okay, and I have here my ruler. So on the y-axis, we have the price, and on the x-axis, we have our quantity. And we know that price and quantity demanded have an inverse relationship. So this should be downward sloping. And let me call this D to indicate that this is a demand curve. So let's suppose that the price here is equal to, let's say, $7. And for $7, individuals are willing to buy in this economy, let's say 10,000 units. Okay? Now, suppose that the price from 7 drops to, let's say, $3. So what do you think will happen to quantity demanded? Well, by law of demand, what we know is that as price decreases, quantity demanded should increase. So let's say if price drops from $7 to, let's say, let's give a number here, let's say $3. Okay? And what's going to happen to quantity? Well, quantity will increase to, let's say, around 21,000 units. And let me label this points A and B. Look at this, my friends. The movement from A to B, and I'm going to indicate the movement here by way of an arrow. This movement from A to B is a change in quantity demanded. So what we can conclude here is that changes in quantity demanded is triggered by changes in, or a change in price. Okay? Now, if price changes, we see a movement along the curve. Okay, so that's what we mean by change in quantity demanded. We can have the same idea for the case of supply. For the case of supply, it's flipped because for supply, instead of an inverse relationship between price and quantity, for supply, it's positive. So meaning as price goes up, quantity should increase. So let's sketch a similar graph here to indicate change in quantity supplied. Okay. So again, let's have here our supply curve. And here we have quantity. And let's say that supply is like this. So you have our supply. I call this S. Okay. And let's say we start with $2. For $2, firms are willing to supply, let's say, 1,500 units of this good. And if price increases, let's say, to $10, quantity should increase up to, let's say, 5,000. So the movement from A to B was triggered by a change in price. This, my friends, is again a movement along the curve, precisely a movement along the supply curve.